So, Mystery at the Manor, Chapter 14. Death Under the Oak Tree. So now, said Gramps, after they'd all enjoyed Kit Kats and milky drinks, only 2 more clues to go. And the next one, if I remember correctly, said Nana, is the one which Pip worked out as being from the 2nd book of Samuel. That's right, said Pip. I remembered the numbers you showed us at the end of the story of David and Goliath. So, what is the reference we need today? Asked Gramps, taking another look at Beth's drawing pad where she had written the clues. And there it was. She'd already written 2 Samuel chapter 18 verse 9, so Nana found it very quickly. Oh dear, she said, glancing at the verse they needed. What's the matter? Asked Beth. Is there a problem, Nana? Asked Pip. Well now, she answered, you could say that there are 2 problems. The first is that this verse is very, very long. And the second problem, if you can call it a problem, is that it's a part of a very, very sad story. Well, let's have a listen, said Gramps. And so this is what Nana read. And Absalom met the servants of David. And Absalom rode upon a mule, and the mule went under the thick boughs of a great oak. And his head caught hold of the oak, and he was taken up between the heaven and the earth, and the mule that was under him went away. Oh, said Beth. That is a long one. She was thinking that it would take her ages to write it out. But what happened next? Asked Pip, who'd been trying to follow the meaning of what Nana had read. And who is that guy, Absalom, anyway? Well, like I said, continued Nana, it's only the end of a very sad story. That doesn't sound like the end of anything, protested Pip. What happened when the mule went away? Now, just a minute, interrupted Gramps. We're not so much interested in a story as in the clues for the treasure, aren't we? Well, I suppose so, said Pip, but he didn't sound totally convinced. Now, this one seems to me like a very long clue, said Gramps, looking over at Beth. Would you like me to write that one out for you? I know my writing's not nearly as neat as yours, but I can write pretty quick if I have to. Beth was secretly relieved as Gramps copied out clue number 6. As he copied out the clue, Beth and Pip explained to Nana how easy the next reference had been for them to sort out. And as soon as Gramps had finished writing, Nana turned to Matthew chapter 6, for this was the clue. Matthew chapter 6, the final clue, verse 21. It said, For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Now, that one was easy to find, and it seems easier to understand than some of the other clues, said Gramps. And it certainly seems to have something there really is about some treasure to be found, said Pip excitedly. And Beth wrote out that final clue. They all agreed that they had done a good afternoon's work. It was almost bedtime, and outside it was beginning to rain. Pip had been up so early that now he was feeling very tired. He was quite glad when Nana suggested that rather than trying to sort out the meanings of the clues, they should all have an early night and hopefully wake up bright and breezy, ready to work them out tomorrow. It was not until they were in their pyjamas that Pip remembered the strange story of the 6th clue. Nana, he said, as she went to get the hot chocolate for them, can we have the story about the mule and the oak tree tonight? We had the story about the mule and the angel the other night, didn't we? She asked. No, I don't mean that one, said Pip. I was wanting to know what happened to the guy in the Clue this afternoon. Well, I don't think it's in the book your mum had when she was a girl, said Nana. It's not really a suitable bedtime story. Oh, but please, implored Beth. We won't get frightened, pleaded Pip. And we really would like to know what the story was about. None of the other clues seem to have much of a story with them, he added. Well, if you're sure that you won't let it upset you, Nana began. Both children assured her that they would be fine, and so she began. You remember how young David fought and killed the giant Goliath? Well, part of his reward for doing that was to marry the king's daughter, and later he became King David. Now, while David was a young boy growing up, he was often overlooked and ignored by his own father, who seemed to prefer David's brothers. Because of that, you would think that when he became a father himself, he wouldn't have favourites, but that's not what happened at all. Absalom was David's favourite son, and he really spoiled him. The other day we had the story of Joseph, and his father gave him the special coat and made his brothers jealous, didn't he? Asked Beth. Well, yes, this is a bit like that, went on Nana. Absalom was a very good-looking young man, and it wasn't only his father who thought he was special. Soon lots of people in the country were flocking around him to be his friends. All this popularity went to his head, and he began thinking that he should be the most important person in the kingdom. He couldn't wait for his father to die so that he could become king. That reminds me of the story of the other day, the one about the son who wanted his money before his father died, said Pip. Nana grinned. Yes, that's right, but if you two keep interrupting, we'll never get this story finished. The children smiled and settled down then to listen quietly. Nana told them how Absalom got together an army to overthrow his father David. Lots of people joined him because he was so popular and looked so good. He had beautiful long hair, but this proved to be his downfall. One day, continued Nana, his army and David's army had a great battle. He could see that his army were going to lose, so he set off to try and escape. Most of the people were on foot, but he was riding on a mule. He left the battlefield and headed for the woods. There was no particular track, but when he looked behind him, he could just see Joab, one of David's generals, was still chasing him. He urged his mule faster, and the animal took him deeper into the thicket. Absalom had to lean forward over the mule's neck because the branches were so low. When he turned to see if Joab was still following, the mule went under a particularly low tree, and Absalom's long hair, which had been flowing free, became tangled in the branches of the oak tree. The mule he was riding on carried on without him, leaving him dangling in midair. It was at that point that Joab caught up with him, and seeing that he was helpless, took out his knife and killed him. Oh, said Beth. I told you it's not a very nice story for bedtime, said Nana, as she finished. Now, no dreaming of long hair and knives. She knew that the children were both very tired, and she was sure that they would not be long before they were sound asleep.